Yes, guys, we are under 2 weeks away from the start of the 2025 NFL and fantasy football seasons. So today we are looking at the best fantasy football schedules and also the worst fantasy football schedules for the players you're drafting right now, the players you already drafted, the players you will draft. Let's get into it. So we will begin with the RBs, guys. Now, a quick note on strength of schedule. First of all, credit to Fantasy Pros here. There are a lot of different strength of schedule sites out there, a lot of different resources. I always use Fantasy Pros, guys. I will chuck the link in the description. Literally just Google Fantasy Pros, strength of schedule. They also have a whole other suite of advanced tools, advanced stats you can use to help you get an edge for fantasy football. All right. With that said, what does strength of schedule really mean? Does it really matter? Well, yes and no. So what this is doing is taking the fantasy points allowed to running backs, for example, right? We're going to do every position, but we'll start with running backs. It's taking the fantasy points allowed per team last year, okay, and extrapolating that to 2025 for the upcoming season. Now, the defenses are not entirely the same. The players are different, the coordinators are different, the teams are different. The offensive changes change how the defense is during a game, right, and how many points they allow. With that being said, the top 5 or 6, all right, best or worst schedules from last year, right, the matchups from last year, the teams from last year, we can kind of assume in 2025 that they'll have a bit of a difference. Now, am I going into every single draft and saying, Breece Hall has a 5-star schedule, can't let him fall out of the third round, taking him over Hampton? No, okay? But if it's like Breece Hall versus RJ Harvey at the end of round 4, and I really don't know, and Breece Hall has a 5-star schedule, and RJ Harvey might not, maybe he does, we'll get into it, right? I use it as a tiebreaker. It works a lot with quarterbacks too. Similar to how you'll use bye weeks. Maybe you don't want the same bye week for your quarterbacks in a Superflex league, for example. But with that being said, too long didn't read. Summary of that TED Talk is the top 5 best, top 5 worst schedules do have an impact on the following year, or on this year, okay? So let's get into it. So I've been talking about Breece Hall. Yes, he is the only running back, the Jets running back, with a true 5-star schedule here in 2025, according to Fantasy Pros. With that being said, I think Breece Hall and Braylon Allen are in basically a full-time 50-50 timeshare, and as soon as Isaiah Davis is healthy, he's going to factor in as a third running back, in my opinion. I am avoiding Breece Hall in the third round. In fact, in the fourth round too. I mean, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, all these guys ahead of him. I mentioned RJ Harvey before. Yes, I'm taking Harvey ahead of Breece. 5-star schedule, which means teams are giving up a lot of fantasy points to running backs. Typically, those fantasy points come on the ground. So Braylon Allen is actually the guy I'm targeting, guys, in drafts. I'm not taking him in like the 5th round, right, where Breece is going, but later in drafts, he is absolutely circled on my board, round 9, round 10. Once you start getting into the Zach Charbonnet range, Braylon Allen is an absolute priority add. Isaiah Davis could be one of the biggest waiver adds too, come weeks 3 or 4. All right, so don't really care that Breece has a good schedule. I am avoiding him in that 3rd, 4th round. Up next, guys, is Trevion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson. They have the 2nd best schedule, a 4-star schedule, according to Fantasy Pros. Now, we're just going to talk about Trevion for a second here. Been talking a lot about him on Twitter, at NoExpertFF, at Joe Orico, FF, okay? He reminds me this year, Trevion Henderson, of Bucky Irving. Last year, kind of versus Rashad White, where Rashad White is Ramondre Stevenson, vice versa. So last year in college, he was the only running back, Trevion Henderson, with 1,000-plus rush yards and 200-plus receiving yards and 7-plus yards per carry. Him and Judkins kind of fueled that Ohio State team to their national championship. But the thing that's very interesting to me, last year, Ramondre Stevenson tied for the league most fumbles lost. I believe it was 6 or 7. All right. Aaron Jones was up there too. Trevion Henderson, 667 career touches, 0 fumbles lost. He's been playing third downs here in the preseason, and he's just absolutely dominating. Scored in both games that he played. Third downs, goal line work, pass catching work, designed plays. So it really is only a matter of time before Henderson overtakes Ramondre Stevenson, who reminds me again of Rachaad White last year, where Henderson this year is kind of in that Bucky Irving role. And Henderson in the fourth, I mean, I'm preferring him to Breece Hall. We keep coming back to Breece, but he's a nice benchmark to see who's going where and who I would take where. Okay, now up next, third best schedule here according to Fantasy Pros, and these next few will be 4 stars, so I'm sure they're all pretty equal, but again, good schedules. Quinshon Judkins, Jerome Ford, and Dylan Sampson. We'll start with Judkins, okay? So Judkins has yet to sign his rookie deal with the Browns, even though he has been kind of resolved of the charges legally, right? The NFL is doing their own investigation and is likely going to issue him a suspension. With that being said, the Browns do not want to sign him, give him guaranteed money if he's just going to come in and get suspended. So who knows when this will be resolved? I mean, realistically, Judkins is a second half of the season player, okay, who if you can trade for him mid-season, early season, if it gets resolved, when he's ready, is going to be a top 15 running back. We're going to talk about who's filling in a second, but a lot of people are sleeping on Judkins. That Zach Charbonnet range, the Braylon Allen range, if you can draft him there, put him in your IR when he gets suspended, or even just hold him on your bench and pair him with a Dylan Sampson, who we'll talk about in a second. That is going to be a league-winning move, in my opinion. We sleep on how good Judkins is. I mean, before the suspension, he was going late 5th round, 6th round, right near Trevion Henderson. If he was playing preseason as a starter right now, he'd probably be in the back half of the 4th, just like RJ Harvey. The Browns have 51% vacated RB opportunities, top 5 at the position. Genty and the Raiders have the most. Okay, it was like 70% vacated RB opportunities from last year. But last year, coming into this year, the Browns gave up over half of their opportunities. The competition outside of Sampson, Pierre Strong, Jerome Ford, Ole Miss as a freshman, Quinshon Judkins, 1,500 plus rush yards, 16 rushing touchdowns, guys. Judkins is a freak of nature. Like, this is the type of running back we want to be drafting as a rookie. It's unfortunate he's suspended, but when it's time, he will be there. Now, who's filling in? Dylan Sampson, guys, is filling in. He has started most recent preseason game here, last game, okay? And we were all over Sampson even when Judkins was playing. This article's from February 26th, this thread, okay? He was the complimentary running back to Jalen Wright, who's stinking it up for the Dolphins right now, all right, in Tennessee in his early years, okay? And then once Wright eventually got drafted in 2024, Dylan Sampson went crazy. Top 10 in rush yards per game, rushing attempts, total rush yards, 22 rushing touchdowns, was top 3. He was very good, and he was drafted at age 20. RBs drafted at age 20, they break out more often, they earn opportunities, and they do great things with those opportunities. That data is according to RotoViz. There are facts and numbers, higher percentage of RBs at age 20 do better than RBs drafted who are older, age 21, 22, 23. The older you get for your draft age, the less those things are true in terms of breakout rate and what you're doing with your opportunities. So Sampson is starting. Flacco's going to be the QB. They have good receivers, decent offensive line, a QB that can move the offense. I think we might be sleeping on the Browns running backs here. And Dylan Sampson is a flex in week 1, honestly, with, RB2 upside until Judkins is back. And I do hope Judkins comes back. Now, next on the list, guys, is going to be the Dolphins. The Dolphins have the fourth best schedule according to Fantasy Pros. We talked about Jalen Wright before. Now, Devon Achane is injured. Maybe he'll be back for week 1. We'll see. Long story short, not good, okay, that he's going into week 1 with an injury. Now, if he's out, Ollie Gordon is the primary handcuff, have just completely won the job from Jalen Wright. Doak Walker, award winner, best running back in college 2 years ago, Ollie Gordon. So, like I said, if Achane is out week 1, Ollie Gordon slides right in. Is a very good play. Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier come in next on the list. 4-star schedule here for them as well. We're hearing 1A, 1B with Algier and Robinson. I don't really care. Bijan's world. We just live in it. Up next on the list, probably the last guy we'll extensively talk about, is Josh Jacobs. Last year, guys, weeks 5 through 15, okay, was the RB2 in points per game, over 20.7 points per game. Barkley had 21.1. Weeks 5 through 15, that's the last 11 weeks of the season, so 75%, 70% of the season. Pretty insane, guys. He pushed for 350 touches in his first season as a Packer. I think he had like 345. I see another 300-plus opportunities loading for Jacobs with this elite schedule, okay? Top 12 running back in 4 of the last 5 seasons played. I don't know what else you want from the guy. He's an unsexy pick there in round 2, but he is a true running back 1. Some other running backs with some decent schedules, and again, once you start getting like to these, 12th best schedule, it doesn't really matter, okay? But Alvin Kamara, James Cook, Caleb Johnson, Chase Brown, and Derrick Henry, of course, okay? Those guys have 4-star schedules. Let's move on to the wide receivers. All right, again, guys, head over to Fantasy Pros, Google Fantasy Pros strength of schedule. You can check out every single position. And we are going to be talking about the bad schedules very quickly at the end of the episode, okay? So for wide receivers, Calvin Ridley and Alec Eyomanor have 4-star schedules. Not much to say here. They're both very good picks. I think Eyomanor is not being drafted right now, but a very nice bench stash, especially in deep leagues. 3 wide receiver spots, he should be rostered, all right? Calvin Ridley is the darling of many. I'm not super sold, but Cam Ward has looked good. I do have Calvin Ridley firmly in that wide receiver 3 range, low-end wide receiver 2 range. Good schedule, good pick. Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings here next for the Niners. The Niners just have a very good schedule all around. It's kind of funny when we look at like tight end and wide receiver schedules. It also means that McCaffrey has a pretty good schedule because he's going to see 6 targets a game or more, right? Which is kind of funny. But Ricky Pearsall is my pick to be this year's Jackson Smith and Jigba, former first rounder. All the opportunities there have been hitting on all cylinders with Brock Purdy in camp in preseason. Just looks absolutely great. Jawan Jennings has slipped in draft rankings, but if he's fully healthy for week 1, which it says he's going to be, locked in flex with top 12 upside weekly. Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter for the Jaguars. That's great. Actually also says a lot about Trevor Lawrence, who we'll talk about at the end when we do QBs, but he has a very good schedule. No reason Brian Thomas Jr. can't finish a top 3 wide receiver again. And then the Raiders, which is interesting too because it applies to Brock Bowers. The Raiders have a 4-star schedule, and this is just good news for Jacoby Myers. Obviously, we have Dante Thornton Jr. kind of dominating right now, but he's not going to do what Myers does for the team. So with Myers, pretty interesting last year, every single wide receiver with 15-plus games played and 9-plus targets per game finished top 15 for fantasy among wide receivers, besides Myers. It was just a clear QB issue. You had AOC. I forget even who the other guy was, but a clear QB issue. Meanwhile, Geno Smith last year just fueling JSN to 8-plus targets per game, top 12 wide receiver finish. It's going to do very nice things, okay, for Jacoby Myers. All right, now let's keep going down the list here. Nico Collins, Josh Downs, Chris Olave. The first guy, Nico Collins, just a locked-in top 12 player overall. Anywhere as early as 109, 108, and just rock solid. On pace for 2,000-plus yards when healthy last year. Josh Downs has fallen a bit in rankings, but Adonai Mitchell is looking good in camp. Michael Pittman's a little banged up. Like I said, Downs is out, fallen in rankings, but Adonai Mitchell's a sneaky late-round pickup. Nice schedule this year. Chris Olave for the Saints and Rashid Shaheed are next on the list. Another 4-star schedule for them. Chris Olave was seen playing the slot in the most recent preseason game. So if we get Spencer Rattler, we get 7 targets game for Olave. He could have a nice season. I don't really love him for fantasy, but again, pick 80, 70 overall where he's going. Probably a pretty good flex that we're just annoyed with from years past. Garrett Wilson's a guy I want to talk about real quick. 4-star schedule, and the Jets receivers overall and their pass catchers have a good schedule. I think Garrett Wilson is just being slept on. I'm not seeing him go in the second round, the end of the second round, where I'm seeing JSN, T. Higgins, players like that go. And I have him as wide receiver 12, ahead of both Higgins and JSN. It's like Ladd, Garrett, Higgins, JSN. They're all in that tier. Admittedly, I flip-flopped them all year as who I want, okay? But Garrett is falling to like the end of the third. And again, I get the concerns. Fields doesn't look good in camp. Whatever. The Jets want to have a run-heavy offense. Whatever. Guys, if he sees 9-plus targets per game, okay, we'll go back to the stat from Jacoby Myers. 9-plus targets per game and 15 games played. Garrett Wilson, by the way, has never missed a game in his career. I'm going to knock on wood right now. 9-plus targets per game, 15 games played. Every single wide receiver who hit that last year was a top 15 wide receiver besides for Myers. That floor is really good. It's really good. Except Garrett Wilson is so much better than Jacoby Myers. Garrett Wilson is talent-wise, as we know, like on the level of like a JSN, a Justin Jefferson. Yes, he is as good as them. Okay, as a pure wide receiver, give this guy Joe Burrow, and we would be, top 5 pick. All right, so A lot of people point to the 2023 season where he had 168 targets, so almost 10 per game, guys, and say, well, PPR wide receiver 26. Let's talk about who was throwing him the ball. Okay, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, and Brett Rippon. I'm here to tell you that Justin Fields is better than these players. And these four prizes right here of QBs, Wilson, Boyle, Siemian, and Ripien, not only are they ass, but they had Nathaniel Hackett, who is quite literally, Hackett plus those four QBs is quite literally the absolute worst combo of offensive play calling, passing execution you can have ever, literally. And he finished, like I said, wide receiver 26. Now, that's not good, okay? But we look at Fields, all right? And we look at what he did with DJ Moore. DJ Moore in 2023 was wide receiver 6. And Fields, I don't even think he played all 17. He played 13 games. Again, top 12 in points per game, by the way, among QBs. But we've seen Fields fuel a wide receiver to a top 6 finish. He did it with DJ Moore in 2023. The new Jets offensive coordinator, Tanner Eggstrand, is of the Ben Johnson tree. Okay, he was, I believe, in 2023 and 2024, the passing game coordinator for the Lions. What do we know about that? Amon-Ra St. Brown, back-to-back top 3 wide receiver finishes. A lot of the passes that Amon-Ra sees, it's part of the reason he doesn't have wide receiver 1 overall ceiling. But the floor is so high with him because it's a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of screens, a lot of 5-yard passes, for example, right? Just quick slants. Garrett Wilson will feast with those because Wilson is better than St. Brown after the catch. He is. All right? So I think Garrett is being slept on in full PPR. He is a top 12 receiver. In half, sure, give me Higgins. Sure, give me JSN. Sure, of course, Ladd, right? I take Ladd over all those guys. He's locked in top 11 for me. But Garrett Wilson is slept on with a very good schedule this year. I will just go on record saying that now. A couple other receivers, Marvin Harrison, DK Metcalf, Tet McMillan. We're kind of getting close to the top 12 here. So just some other guys with good schedules. All right. Now, I will talk about Marvin for a quick second. Former my guy last year. The utilization was actually really good. If we weren't taking him in the top 15, we would have been happy with his season, kind of similar to Rome Odunze. But, top 13 in routes run, top 20 in total targets, 23% target share. Only 71% of his targets were catchable last year, Marvin, which is a Kyler Murray issue, in my opinion. All right? And it's been said that he's put on 10 plus pounds of muscle. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a lot of muscle. It's a lot of muscle. But yeah, he said he feels the more faster, powerful, stronger, and he's ready to showcase it. So we shall see with Marvin. All good things, but again, I would love to see it. At the tight end position, one man stands above the rest here for schedule, and his name is Trey McBride, a.k.a. my guy at the tight end position. He's the only guy with a 5-star schedule. Okay? Last year, he had more targets than JSN, Brian Thomas Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown. All of them were top 12 wide receivers. McBride had the second best weekly tight end 1 finish rate. Okay? Kittle had the first best, but he missed a couple games, so therefore his percentage, right? Because you take out the games you missed, and you're just looking at the total games played when you finish as a tight end 1. Kittle's percentage was higher, but again, his total games was lower. So McBride's second best weekly tight end 1 finish rate, ranked first among tight ends in expected points. The ceiling is monstrous. First among tight ends in expected points, guys, but 104th in fantasy points over expected. Insane. And that is because he only had 2 tutties. Okay? As you can see right here, expected points per game among tight end, first, PPR, second, air yards, second, receiving yards, second, receptions, second, targets, second, fantasy points over expected per game, 104th, according to RotoViz. That's where I get all my advanced stats. RotoViz is the GOAT for that stuff. McBride has 300-plus point PPR season. He has this range of outcomes. We look at the recent 300-plus PPR point tight end seasons. 2011, you had Gronk. 2020, you had Kelsey. 2021, you had Andrews. Now, let's see here. Gronk really relied on the touchdowns. Only 90 catches. Again, McBride had more last year, but 17 touchdowns. Kelsey was good at both, the catches and the touchdowns. 11 touchdowns and 105 catches, right? And then Andrews was definitely more of the catches. 107 catches, 9 touchdowns. That is the way McBride does this. He has 110 catches and he has 8 touchdowns. That will do it in 2025. McBride can absolutely see 300 plus points, PPR points over the course of a season. The average number of touchdowns, the average number of touchdowns for top 10 tight ends last year, if you exclude Trey McBride, was 8. He had 2. So 9, 10, 7. This is extremely possible with McBride, especially if Marvin Harrison gets better, because now all of a sudden the field's more open for McBride and those touchdowns. Yeah, absolutely possible. He has top 10 overall player, including quarterbacks, right, in his range of outcomes. Actually, probably not including quarterbacks. What did I say here? Yeah, non-QB. Excuse me, misspoke. All right, let's move on now to QBs. We'll just kind of scan through these guys, then we'll do some of the worst schedules and see if they matter. Among QBs, it's actually 3 quarterbacks with 5-star schedules. Tua, Justin Fields, and Tyler Shook, a.k.a. Spencer Rattler, for the Saints. Not really concerned with the Saints. They need like a 7-star schedule to be fantasy relevant, those guys. Justin Fields, though, guys, again, every season he's been healthy, right? He has been a top 12 fantasy football QB in points per game. It's true. So if we get 15, 16 games out of him, he'll probably finish top 12. 5-star schedule, improved offense, improved offensive coordinator. Tua Tagovailoa also has a 5-star schedule. He is a tough pick to make late in drafts just because of the injury risks, but if he plays 15, 17 games, I do see him, again, finishing top 12. How can he not if the offense is cooking, right? And Drake May. I forgot to mention Drake May. 5-star schedule for Drake May, and he's really the one that stands out the most here. I don't know why I just didn't see him in the beginning, but Drake May stands out the most, guys. Top 10 QB as the starter last year to close the season. Kind of was slept on because the Pats weren't winning many games, and it wasn't exactly beautiful to watch, but a lot of shades of rookie year Josh Allen. I mean, Drake May with this schedule, he really does have top 5 QB ceiling. Some other guys with good schedules. Michael Penix, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, of course, and Sam Darnold. Okay, let's take a look. We'll just begin with QBs at some of the worst schedules here. Now, the worst schedule in all of fantasy for the QB, the only QB with a 1-star schedule is Russell Wilson, and I guess that means Jackson Dart, but we'll focus on Russell because Dart has been cooking in the preseason. He like is Jalen Hurts reincarnated is what I see, and if you're a Dynasty nerd or whatever, and you know that doesn't exactly match the comp, my apologies, but when I watch him, I'm just like, damn, that is Jalen Hurts, and that's just me. Monster arm, not afraid to lower the shoulder, gets tough yards, just throwing bullets. Yeah, he reminds me of him. Anyway, Russ has a terrible schedule, and if he starts off pretty bad, they go 1-3, 0-4, something like that, even 2-2, but he looks terrible. We could see Jackson Dart come in here around week 5. Joe Burrow has a bad schedule, doesn't matter. Jordan Love has a bad schedule, might matter. Honestly, it might. Dak Prescott, bad schedule, I don't think it matters. Joe Flacco, bad schedule, maybe matters. It might matter. We might see a Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, probably not Shador, right? Come in sooner rather than later for Flacco if they're not winning games. But then again, Flacco has a way of just putting up 400 yards sometimes. Caleb Williams, bad schedule. I don't think it matters too much because he has rushing upside, similar to Jaden Daniels here, also with a 2-star schedule. Back to Caleb, has Ben Johnson, has all the weapons, rushing upside, good O-line. I'm not too concerned. Okay? Same thing with Jaden Daniels. Jared Goff, doesn't matter. Baker Mayfield, probably doesn't matter. J.J. McCarthy, might matter, but again, when you have Justin Jefferson, probably not. Okay? All right. For RBs, some of the worst schedules. Here we go. Travis Etienne Jr. and Tank Bigsby. They just start us off with the worst schedule. And I think that hurts Bigsby more than Etienne because we're going to most likely see Etienne in the pass-catching role. When you have a bad schedule for running backs, can't get things going on the ground, you got to pass more, Etienne's going to benefit from that. RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, again, pretty similar. I do think J.K. Dobbins is going to be more of the pass catcher, actually. He's doing the third down role so far in preseason where Harvey is starting first down, second down, okay? So we'll see how that plays out. Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, Miles Sanders. Man, I really hope that something happens in this Cowboys backfield because it is valuable. I don't think that one matters too much, honestly. Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Woody Marks for the Texans, also a pretty bad schedule. That one matters, right? Because Chubb is going to get his yards on the ground. Joe Mixon's not playing right now. But again, if they're not getting anything going on the ground and Woody Marks comes in as the pass catcher, could be interesting, could be some value there. Jonathan Taylor, DJ Giddens, yeah, could matter. I don't think the offense is going to be amazing as a whole. Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears, once Tyjae is healthy, might be, again, a similar thing with pass catching where Tyjae excels, all right? But all in all, nothing crazy for running backs. Now, for wide receivers, this one is always interesting because it comes down to just simply the matchup, the one-on-one matchup. So, like, when I'm looking at the two worst schedules are Malik Neighbors and CeeDee Lamb, and then Justin Jefferson as well in the top 5, I don't really care. I mean, they're first rounders, doesn't really matter. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, like with Caleb, maybe it matters, but again, okay, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, this one might matter a little more because there's no true like alpha in the offense. So in terms of all this volume in a good schedule that can go around, I don't know if that's happening for the Packers. And then Cleveland as well. We talked about Flacco a little bit before, similar to the Packers. I think it might affect the Packers and the Browns here. In terms of tight ends, worst schedules, a lot of similar names, okay? Jake Ferguson, Tucker Kraft, I'm not too concerned. Brock Bowers, I'm absolutely not concerned. Mike Gesicki and Theo Johnson, it's not exactly relevant for our guys, Mike Gesicki and Theo Johnson. But that's going to do it for the video today, guys. Hope you enjoyed. The shorts about the strength of schedule that I've been posting have been doing really well, so I figured I'd kind of just jump in, give you a little more details on my thoughts. Again, guys, Fantasy Pros strength of schedule tool. They have so many good tools to use for this fantasy football season, guys. Trade Analyzer, everything, power rankings. It really is an amazing resource, the My Playbook from Fantasy Pros, guys. So hope you enjoyed. Pete.